Welcome to Betrayal Stories. In today's video, we dive into a story about unexpected connections, emotional vulnerability, and how one stormy night can change the course of two lives forever. Hi friends. Before we start today's story, I want to share something special. One of my close friends has launched a brand new YouTube channel filled with heartfelt storytelling and amazing short films. I've added his channel link in the description below. And if you enjoy my videos, I know you'll love his content too. After watching this one, please take a moment to check out his channel and support him. Now, let's begin today's story. A story that begins with rain, uncertainty, and two people who never expected to find comfort in each other's presence. Part 1. The storm arrives, Emily. Hart's suitcase rolled across the polished marble floor of the Chicago airport, the wheels clicking rhythmically as if counting down the moments before her next challenge began. She'd made it through security, the chaos of baggage claim, and the endless announcements echoing through the terminals. But now, the weather had its own plans. A light drizzle had started just as she boarded the airport shuttle. Within minutes, it had grown into a full-blown storm, wind howling, lightning flickering across the skyline, rain pouring like the sky itself had broken open. Emily clutched her umbrella close as she hurried toward the hotel entrance beside her boss, Daniel Carter, a man who, to her, seemed more like a mystery than a mentor. Daniel was the kind of person everyone admired from a distance. Sharp mind, calm presence, perfect suit, the kind of man who could command a boardroom with a single glance. But beneath that flawless exterior, Emily always sensed something hidden. A quiet loneliness, maybe, or the exhaustion that comes from always being in control. They worked together at a respected marketing firm in Seattle, and this business trip to Chicago was supposed to be straightforward. A few meetings, a client presentation, and back home. But the storm had turned the city into a sea of flashing lights and flooded streets. By the time they reached the hotel lobby, both were soaked. Daniel's usual poise was replaced by damp hair and a weary sigh as he approached the front desk. The young clerk behind the counter looked anxious, flipping through the computer system. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Carter," the clerk said, voice apologetic. "Because of the storm, every room is booked. The only one left has one bed," Emily blinked. "Just one?" The clerk nodded helplessly. "Just one." Emily glanced at Daniel, expecting him to protest, maybe demand a suite, maybe insist on another hotel. But instead, he simply nodded once, composed as ever. "We'll take it," he said, sliding his credit card across the counter. Emily froze. "Wait, are you sure?" He turned to her, his voice calm but reassuring. "It's one night, Emily. We'll manage." The words were simple, but her heartbeat wasn't. Part 2. One room. The elevator ride felt longer than usual, even though it was only 12 floors. The metallic hum filled the silence as raindrops traced patterns on the glass panels. Emily kept her gaze fixed on the numbers lighting up above the door, trying not to think about what awaited them at the top. One bed, one room, and one very awkward situation. When the doors opened, Daniel stepped out first, unlocking the room with a quiet click. Warm light spilled from inside, revealing a neatly arranged space, modern, minimal, yet intimate in a way that made Emily's breath catch. One large bed stood in the center, white sheets perfectly tucked, pillows lined like soldiers. Daniel placed his bag on the table, his movements deliberate. "You can take the bed," he said casually. "I'll figure something out." But Emily shook her head quickly. "No, that's not fair. We'll share. There's enough space." For a brief second their eyes met. Something unspoken flickered there. An understanding, a hesitation, and a hint of nervous laughter neither dared to voice. Daniel smiled faintly, the corners of his mouth softening. "All right then, teamwork." She returned the smile, though her stomach fluttered. It was strange. She'd seen him in hundreds of meetings, heard him give confident presentations, watched him command rooms full of executives. But never like this. Here in this quiet, rain-soaked room, Daniel Carter didn't seem like her boss. He just seemed fine-hearted. 3. The quiet night. The storm outside raged, lightning flashing through the curtains, thunder shaking the window. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, pretending to scroll through her phone while Daniel typed on his laptop. The rhythmic sound of keys filled the silence, blending with the rain. After a while, Daniel rubbed his temples and closed his laptop. "That's enough work for tonight." She looked up, startled by the change in his tone, softer, almost tired. "You okay?" she asked gently. He nodded, smiling faintly. "Just a long day. You should rest." Emily hesitated before lying down on the far edge of the bed, keeping a careful distance. Daniel turned off the light, leaving only the faint glow of the city filtering through the storm clouds. For a while, neither spoke. The only sounds were the rain and their breathing, his steady, hers uneven. Then Daniel's voice came quietly through the dark. "Strange night, isn't it?" Emily turned her head toward him, barely making out his outline in the dim light. "Yeah," she whispered. "Not exactly how I pictured our business trip." He chuckled softly. "Me neither, but we'll laugh about it one day." Something about his tone, gentle, amused, real, made her heart soften. "I hope you're comfortable, Emily," he added after a pause. "I don't want you to feel uneasy," she smiled faintly, even though he couldn't see it. "I'm fine, really." But she wasn't, because for the first time, she was seeing her boss not through the lens of professionalism, but as a man, a person. Someone who, for once, wasn't behind a desk or a title, and that realization terrified her. Part 4. Unexpected conversations. The night dragged on. Emily couldn't sleep, so she turned slightly, glancing toward Daniel. He was still awake, staring at the ceiling. "Can't sleep either?" he asked without looking over. She laughed softly. "Guess not. The storm's too loud. Or maybe the company," he teased lightly. She blushed in the dark, glad he couldn't see her expression. "Maybe." When the power flickered and went out, the room dimmed to nothing but gray-blue light from the rain outside. "No Wi-Fi, no screens," Daniel said with a wry grin. "Guess we'll have to talk like normal humans," Emily chuckled. "Oh no, real conversation? Terrifying." He leaned back against the headboard. "You know, it's strange. I don't think we've ever had a real conversation outside work." "That's because you're always so serious," she said playfully. "Serious? Or intimidating?" "Both," she admitted. He laughed quietly, a sound that warmed the room more than any lamp could. "I'll work on that." The laughter faded into a comfortable silence. Then, unexpectedly, Daniel asked, "So, who are you when you're not buried in marketing reports?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't know," she said slowly. "Someone who paints sometimes, someone who calls her mom every Sunday, someone who works too much and sleeps too little." He nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds more interesting than my life." "Doubt it," she said with a grin. "You're Daniel Carter, the guy who has it all figured out." He gave a short laugh. "If only that were true. People see confidence and mistake it for certainty. Most days I'm just trying to keep it together." That honesty, quiet, unexpected, vulnerable, hit her harder than she expected. "Leadership's lonely," he continued softly. "You can't show doubt. You can't break. You just keep going." Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," he said simply. "That's why I admire people like you." "Me?" she asked, surprised. "You do the hard work that no one notices. You hold things together quietly. That kind of strength doesn't go unseen." Her throat tightened. "You notice?" He nodded once. "Always." Silence filled the room again. Not cold or awkward, but heavy, meaningful. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, something shifted. Part 5. The Walls. Break a flash of lightning illuminated the room. Emily flinched, instinctively brushing against Daniel's hand where it rested near hers. It was a fleeting touch. Accidental. Maybe. But it sent a current through both of them. Neither spoke. The air between them thickened, filled with something fragile yet powerful. "This is strange," Daniel said finally. "Yeah," she replied. "Very," he hesitated. Then quietly, I don't hate it. Emily's heart skipped. She wanted to say she didn't either, but she couldn't. Not yet. They just looked at each other, shadows and rain reflected in their eyes, two people caught between rules and emotions, trying to hold the line that was already fading. Eventually, they both lay back down, facing opposite directions but wide awake, both knowing the truth. Something had changed forever. Part 6. The morning after. The storm had softened into a drizzle when morning came. Gray light filtered through the curtains, painting the room in muted calm. Emily stirred first, blinking at the unfamiliar ceiling. Then memory rushed back. The rain, the laughter, the conversation that had peeled back layers neither meant to expose. Daniel was awake too. He turned his head, offering a small, sleepy smile. "Morning." "Morning," she replied quietly. For a moment they just stared at each other, two people suspended between what happened and what it meant. Daniel finally spoke. "About last night. I didn't mean to make things complicated." Emily shook her head. "You didn't. You were honest." "That's rare," he exhaled slowly. "Honest is dangerous.